Hello there. The most dire warning that we must actively prepare for war on UK soil has come out of the Cabinet Office. So Keir Starmer is going to increase defence spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. Had we maintained a proper defence posture with well-equipped and balanced military forces with sufficient personnel and strong UK borders, we would not be talking about the real possibility of war on UK soil. But that's what the Cabinet Office is warning us about. For the first time in many years, we have to actively prepare for the possibility of the UK homeland coming under direct threat, potentially in a wartime scenario, says the National Security Strategy 2025, Security for the British People in a Dangerous World. And on reading it, I think we should be upping defence spending today. Not in the hope we can afford it by 2035. It will be too late by then. So as far as I can see, much of this strategy was just pointless talk. And you also have to wonder if they mean war from within or war from without. I know which I'd put my money on first. And the foreword to this new National Security Strategy for 2025, or NSS 2025, is by the Prime Minister himself, with the overarching message in my eyes being that he says we must all come together to save the nation, not just within the UK, but also among international alliances. In it, he says, hostile state activity takes place on British soil. It is an era of radical uncertainty, and we must navigate it with agility, speed, and a clear-eyed sense of the national interest. It would be very interesting to hear how his recent Chagos giveaway and handing over Gibraltar's border controls to Spain and the EU is in the national interest. Then he has the cheek to say, we are guided by our values and our history. He has the gall to say that. Our country has been run by the values of foreign bodies like the EU, the UN and the ECHR for decades, and our history has been torn up and rewritten into a woke fiction that is now thrust down the throats of our children. And then he says that we, yes we, as a country, stand unashamedly for freedom, democracy and internationalism. Freedom to do what? Go to jail for hurty words, imprisoned for blasphemy of a certain demographic? And the democracy of voting in a uniparty state every 4 or 5 years? As to internationalism, which is the concept that we can achieve more by working together and understanding each other than we can by fighting. Tell that to those with their own internationalist ideas of global domination. Our job is to understand them and defeat them, and always be ready to fight for our freedoms. Also, internationalism has led our politicians to concern themselves too much with the plight of other states, and so not have the clear-eyed sense of the national interest that Starmer claims we need. I cannot believe how naive Starmer actually is. Now a quick interjection. Please like, subscribe and comment below and become a channel member to get extra content like this for less than the price of a pint in a London pub per month by clicking on the join button or following the link in the descriptions box below on a laptop or desktop computer. Anyway, Starmer had to get the working people into this strategy somehow, didn't he? Foreign policy should answer directly to the concerns of working people, he wrote. What does that mean? So we must not forget the definition of a working person, as per Keir Starmer, can we? He said, working people know who they are. And refine that into someone who goes out and earns their living, usually paid in a sort of monthly cheque, and would be unable to write a cheque to get out of difficulties. And our entire foreign policy will be written for them, of course. That just shows you where he thinks the majority of the UK population will end up under his government, doesn't it? And one of the factors that adversely affects working people, he wrote, was where criminals smuggle illegal migrants across our borders. You could not make this stuff up, could you? At least he conceded that NATO is the cornerstone of our defence strategy. But then he went on to write, nations are strongest when they are bound together by a shared purpose. And here we are, with thousands, if not millions of people in this country vehemently opposed to our Middle East policy, especially where Israel is concerned. And they are not exactly shy in coming forward to make their views known. Look at RAF Bryce Norton for a start. So I find it laughable when he says, we must also now mobilise every element of society towards a collective national effort. There are enough living here who want to see us destroyed to make that a very difficult aim to achieve, without maybe deporting them first. But that's never going to happen, is it? But his big thing here is where he slips in, the lesson is clear. Delivering my plan for change requires us to bring foreign and domestic policy together. So it's not a defence strategy then, but a plan for change, where foreign and domestic policy will be drawn together. How's that going to work, where we've got so many people from outside the country living here and working against our interests? Now, anyone coming out of the Cold War, where we spent huge amounts on defence, will remember the phrase peace dividend. The concept of no longer spending money on defence, but diverting it into social services, the NHS, or tax cuts. Well, that's not worked out very well, has it? But Starmer has flipped it, and he calls the increased defence spending a defence dividend. A defence dividend, or increased defence spending when it comes, that will renew industrial communities the length and breadth of our country. When all we've been engaged in doing for decades is deindustrialising and offshoring carbon emissions wherever we can, and shutting down manufacturing and industries like steel production, as well as pouring concrete down North Sea oil wells, sealing them up. What are we going to run our tanks, ships and jet fighters with? Imported fuel, of course. Or biofuel grown on arable land, when we need that land for agriculture and food security. Something else this Labour Party is royally f***ing up. The report mentions food security once in the report, but mentions climate change 6 times. And the claims it makes about how we will achieve energy security by moving away from imported fossil fuels and towards electricity produced at home and by our allies, relying on wind and sun while importing electricity via those vulnerable undersea cables. Anyway, at the end of the day, Keir Starmer has not yet cottoned on to the problem that we now have a fragmented society, many of whom have little interest in defending the UK, or would even fight against it. That has to be addressed before we have any chance of defending ourselves. J.D. Vance was right. The enemy is within. Finally, please like, subscribe and comment below, and a big shout out to our members and Patreon supporters, and thank you for watching.